Real quick to all my older and new supporters alike, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video or a new lesson. And you can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Yehoshua Ben Ephraim. All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ephraim saying Ahaya by Yeshem, Yeshua HaMashiach, Baruch Ato Adonai. And if you're listening to the sound of my voice, you're blessed to see yet another day, and all praises due to the Most High God of Israel now and forever. Today's date is August 24th, 2021, and welcome to Real Talk Tuesdays, episode 4. This is the day where I just talk about different things in the news, entertainment, sports, whatever is on my mind. All in the spirit of keeping the interest alive for the channel, and maybe reaching some new and different subscribers that would be interested in what we got going on over here. So yesterday, talked about a couple things. The main thing that was really on my mind and heart is that whole so-called Brother Polite thing, man. I mean, I think that the most disturbing thing to me about that Brother Polite story is the fact that this brother has, I believe he has at least two daughters. I know he has one, and my thing is, how would he feel, man, if some 30-something-year-old man, almost 40-year-old man, violate his young daughter like that? I mean, what was this dude thinking, man? I mean, I don't get it. But some people are so consumed, with what they want to do, consumed with lust, whatever you want to. He at some point he had to have thought, you know what, this is dead ass wrong. This is wrong. But that lust spirit, he couldn't stop it. He couldn't help himself, right? He had to keep going. This is a child, man. Like, how could you do something like that? And you got a daughter, or rather, more correctly, you have a daughter. My apologies, right? Like, how could you do that, man? And it's like, that was probably the most disturbing of the stories yesterday to me. I mean, I think all the others kind of paled in comparison to that. I mean, to those of you who have children, and that's not just daughters. I mean, young sons as well, right? I mean, in this day and age, you have to be careful and mindful of everyone around your children. One thing I will give my mother, she didn't play that. She was very protective of us, and she was very particular with where we went. She always knew who was around us, the whole nine. She didn't play that. She did not. And I'm thankful that the Most High didn't allow anything to happen to myself, my brother, or my sister, and we talk about that from time to time. That's truly a blessing, because a lot of families can't say that. A lot of people can't say that, and it's sad. It really bothers me. It touches my heart and my spirit when a child is hurt. I don't care. There's no circumstance, man, no excuse to harm a child, man, in any way. I mean, in any way. This is why I never believed the allegations and accusations against Michael Jackson. People can say those horrible things about Michael Jackson, call him a pedophile, child molester, all those things, because that's what they want to believe about him. But I know that man's spirit. Michael was a victim of his own, pretty much his own arrogance. In his mind, there was nothing going on. There was nothing wrong with, kids sleeping in his bed that wasn't his children, things like that. And they said, Michael, listen, you could know nothing's wrong, but the perception is you're a grown man having children and sleeping in your bed that's not even related to you. It doesn't look good. And he couldn't grasp that. But I submit to you all, my people, they never found not one shred of evidence against that man. They paraded that man in the police station, humiliated him, made him take his clothes off. I mean, took pictures of his genitals. This is Michael Jackson, man, arguably the greatest pop singer of all time. And this is how they treated him. This is what he was, reduced to. Right? And I don't care what anyone says, man. I really don't. There's nothing in this world, anyone to ever get me to believe that Michael Jackson would harm a child in any way. I would never believe that. And that, but that's my point. I mean, when you're in the spotlight, you're going to be scrutinized and scrutinized in a different way, right? I always say fair or foul, you're going to be looked at in a different way, in a different light. That's just how it is. Once you get to a certain level of success, in life, especially in entertainment, I mean, your every waking move is scrutinized, and in the public eye, especially in the age of the internet and social media. It's crazy. But yeah, that was probably the most troubling of the stories that I brought, yesterday. The fact that this so-called brother Polite, has a daughter, and for him to do something like that, man, I mean, he just that lust demon just must have really just consumed him. I mean, because a person of his, I mean, he's an intelligent brother. I won't take that from him. I mean, a man of his intelligence, he had to have known, like, dude, this is a 14-year-old girl, man. What are you doing? First of all, you taking her to a club. What was that about? Like, so I mean, it's just wow, man. And so they said that they got his DNA on the young lady, and I mean, if that's the case, a conviction ain't far off, and that's real. A conviction ain't far off. But yeah, shout out, peace and blessings to that young lady and her family, and I really, hope and pray that this doesn't traumatize her, or affect her life in a negative way, or that she's still able to be productive, because she's young, man. She's so young. I just don't know what I would do, man, if someone wants to violate my young daughter or even my young son like that. I just really, man. I mean, this woman trusted him. You taking her, talking about you going to, talk to her and this and that and counsel her. I guess her and her mom was into it. And he was supposed to be trying to talk to the young lady to mend that relationship. Yeah, well, he mended the relationship all right. I believe the whole time he had something else in mind with that young lady. When he had an opportunity, he pounced. And now, what it's looking like, they got the DNA evidence on him, ironically, right, for what we deal with over here. It's his, and if they convict him of this crime, I hope he get the maximum. Whatever, for doing what he did to that young lady, because that was just so foul. All right. That's that. Moving right along to the next segment. And in the news, a couple days ago, Laila Ali, daughter of the late, great Muhammad Ali, got into a little bit of a controversy on Twitter. When she made some comments to the fact that she was the Twitterverse considered, anti-vaccine, anti-mask, right? So Muhammad Ali's daughter is facing a lot of heat about that on Twitter after her post said people can, quote, trust their own immune systems with COVID-19, end quote. Laila Ali is under some hot water. The media personality and ex-professional boxer is getting dragged on Twitter for her post defending anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues and the Delta variant surges, now more than ever, people seem to be getting the word out there to get vaccinated. Wear your mask and do all that you can to stop the spread. While, of course, not everyone shares similar sentiments, celebrities seem to continually get into hot water when spreading misinformation in this day and age. Now, Laila is the one in the spotlight after recently sharing a post to her social media account now, commenting on the anti-masking movement, writing that it's a, quote, God-given choice, end quote. In her now infamous post, Ali wrote, quote, people don't seem to understand that just because some folks don't wear masks, don't want the shot, don't listen to the media, or live in fear, it doesn't mean they don't believe the virus is real or think they can't get it. They know it was created to harm humanity, end quote. And then Twitter just started in on her, right? Because, I mean, we live in an era where you're not allowed to have an opinion. People were saying stuff like some posters, Federico Chispes or whatever how you pronounce that, said, yikes, Laila Ali is a jackass, right? And let's see here. And she continued in her post, quote, They simply choose to build up and trust their own immune system like they have been doing all their life. If they get it, they will deal with it. It's a God-given choice. I know this kind of faith is impossible for some to comprehend, but lean not on your own understanding. Concluding the post, she wrote, quote, before you claim they are putting others in danger, you should do your own research to learn if that's actually true. You can't change anyone but yourself, so you do you. She wrote, you do you in all caps, end quote. She then added a real talk sticker underneath the post. And, they came for her. Now, naturally, Twitter was not having Ali's message, with people calling her ignorant and sharing dangerous rhetoric. One user even wrote, quote, it's very disappointing to see prominent people like Laila Ali lead other less privileged black people astray with her anti-vaxxer, anti-mask nonsense. If this woman gets sick and decides to seek health care, she'll get the best treatment. The rest of y'all will be sent home to die, end quote. So anyway, and just for the record, I agree with everything Laila Ali said, and I spoke about this yesterday. We live in an era where you're just not allowed to have an opinion especially opinion that's not popular among the masses. The Generation Zs and the Xers, and I mean not Xers, that's my generation. The Generation Zs and the Millennials, they'll come for you. They'll try to shut you down. They'll do whatever they have to do when your opinion is not popular or they deem it as not valuable to them in some way. And I do agree to an extent that as a celebrity, when you say something, your words tend to have more weight, or it's scrutinized a lot more differently, like I was saying earlier, which is true. However, just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean that that you can't have an opinion, whether the opinion is popular or not. And apparently, they're not trying to give that to Laila Ali, but I say keep your head up, sister, stand strong, as you always have. And stand on yours. I agree with it. If you're you make decisions for you, you govern your own life, right? Win, lose, or draw. That's your life, right? And whatever decision you make, then you have to live with that, right? So that's that. On Laila Ali. So on to the next segment. And also, I debated whether or not to speak on this story, because this story has been dominating the news cycle for the last, week or so, with the Taliban taking over the Afghanistan government, but I feel a way about that, and I want to speak on that. I think, this so-called president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, who fled at the first sign of trouble and turmoil with his country and left his people like that, I just personally think that's one of the most coward things ever in the history of just the world. You're the president of these people elected you to look out for them, to protect them. I mean, listen, I'm from the era, man, where if you ride together, and God forbid you die together, I'm not running, I'm not leaving you. And I would hope that my people wouldn't run and leave me. I can't get past that, right? The fact that he did that. The first sign of trouble. I mean, the United States, these are the facts. The United States spent 20, maybe 30 years over there training them, billions, maybe more, training them how to fight, pumping money into their economy, all this and that. 20, 30 years. And the first sign of turmoil, you want to run and give up? I mean, listen, what I do agree with the government saying is that why should we stay and fight for people that don't want to that don't want to fight for themselves? I mean, that right there is some real talk. The Taliban is a terrorist organization, rogue, non-democrat, all this kind of stuff, whatever the case may be. But we put them in position to help them. So all of that was for what? All the lives that we've already lost over the years over there trying to help them and train them and pumping money into their economy. I mean, they can politicize it and say, yeah, well, the withdrawal was handled wrongly or whatever the case may be. But there was never a perfect exit strategy. Now, do I agree with the last administration making a deal with the Taliban, saying we were going to withdraw? No, that was imbecilic. That was idiotic. But he did, and they did. But this notion, this narrative that somehow, the way we withdrew was just shady, or whatever. Listen, there was never a perfect exit strategy from my standpoint, and I just wanted to say that, my hearts go out to the Afghan people. I saw the images of, the plane taking off. Just people that was on the plane, man, that literally fell to their death. I'm sorry, trying to, just hang on to see if they can get out of there or whatever. So I really feel bad for those people and the families that lost those people like that. But yeah, there was never a perfect exit strategy. And I do agree that I'm not going to fight for somebody that's not willing to fight for themselves. And what that president did, man, I tell you, that was one of the most coward moves ever in the history of the world. But prayers and thoughts out to the Afghan people, and it's my prayer that everything will work out to their good and for their benefit. On a lighter note, in sports, the 42-year-old boxing champion and living legend, Manny Pacquiao, may have fought his last fight after a unanimous decision loss to Mr. Yordenis Ugas, his Cuban brother. In that fight, Manny looked old. He looked, slow. They say that, literally overnight, an athlete gets old. And I think that may have happened to Manny. I won't count him out totally, because he's been known to come back and shock everybody with an amazing performance. But I think this might be it. He was supposed to fight Errol Spence, which I'm glad he didn't fight Spence, because I think Spence would have probably hurt him. Because to be honest with you, I'm not really impressed with Yordenis. He's okay. He's a bronze medal winner from the Olympics. So, that's not saying that to diminish his skills or whatever, but I'm just not really impressed with him. And I think that if this Yordenis was to fight Errol Spence, I believe that Errol would wash him. But yeah, if this is it for Manny, man, he has a legendary career. I think Floyd Mayweather not fighting him at his height robbed us of one of the greatest fights we could have seen ever. When they did fight, it just wasn't the same, but if this is it for Manny Pacquiao, he has nothing to be ashamed of. He's been the consummate warrior. He came to bring it, every time. He did, and he didn't cheat the fans. He was no runner. He didn't duck, he didn't dodge. He stood toe to toe with you if you were willing to stand toe to toe with him and fight. He's a low fighter, man. I respect that about him. I love that about him. His heart. He got a lot of heart, man. I really got a lot of respect for Manny Pacquiao. So, Manny, if you're listening, or just whatever the case may be, congrats, man, on a stellar career, and you have nothing to be ashamed of in that loss, and you did your thing, man. Congrats, and God bless. So, also in the entertainment news, on the rapper side, apparently Nicki Minaj and her husband, who is a convicted and registered sex offender, Kenneth Petty, are being sued by sexual assault victim for harassment and intimidation. Nicki Minaj and her husband, Kenneth Petty, are facing a lawsuit claiming that the celebrity couple harassed and intimidated the woman who accused Petty of rape in the 1990s. In a complaint, the plaintiff brought several claims against the super bass rapper and Petty, including witness intimidation, emotional distress, harassment, assault and battery, and the like. The filing was submitted Friday to the Eastern District of New York. Jennifer Howe's lawyer, Tyrone A. Blackburn, wrote in the filing that Minaj, 38, and Petty, 43, intimidated Howe directly and indirectly, pressuring her to not speak about 1994 rape charges against Petty after the case became public knowledge on social media. There we go, social media, undefeated, right? Howe claims that after Petty was arrested in 2020 for failing to register as a sex offender in California, Minaj proposed that Howe and Minaj's publicist meet to make a statement recanting Petty's 1994 rape charge. Howe declined. I heard that. Money ain't everything. Money don't fix everything. Quote, before they got off the phone, plaintiff said to defendant Minaj, "I need you to know, woman to woman, that this happened." Defendant Minaj hung up the phone. The complaint read, quote, within days of this conversation, plaintiff and her family suffered an onslaught of harassing calls and unsolicited visits. And that's, again, the power of social media. Howe is asking for a trial by a jury for her claims and plans to seek damages as well as statutory damages and attorney's fees. According to the New York State's Sex Offender Registry, Petty was convicted of attempted first-degree rape in April 1995 for a 1994 assault that occurred when both he and the victim were 16. He was sentenced to 18 to 54 months in state prison. According to New York State Department of Corrections records, he served just under 4 years and released in January of 1999. Blackburn, Howe's lawyer, says Howe was left with no choice other than to fight back. As a result of Petty's actions, Ms. Howe has incurred serious debt after having to move 3 times in a span of 7 months. She also had to quit her job for fear of being found and attacked. The Pettys acted in concert to destroy Ms. Howe's life. Now they will be held accountable for their actions. You know, the really interesting thing about this story is, first of all, I mean, it's rare to impossible to see an entertainment or a superstar of Nicki Minaj's caliber with a convicted and registered sex offender. I mean, that doesn't even sound like it goes together. I mean, it's just so off kilter. But many of you may or may not know or remember, Nicki Minaj had a brother who was convicted of raping an 11-year-old child over and over. His name was Jelani Mirage, and he was convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for that, as he should have. You know, and she came out publicly saying how she supported him and this and that. I mean, listen, personally, I'm not standing next to no sex offender. I'm not standing next to no pedophile. I don't care what your status is to me, what your relationship is to me. I'm not doing it. Even if by chance I was to support you spiritually. By that I mean that I would pray for your deliverance. I would pray for your, for God to forgive you or whatever the case may be. Even if that was the case, I wouldn't voice that publicly, and I especially wouldn't voice that publicly if I was a mega superstar with millions of females, especially little girls, looking up to me and following me. I mean, so her decision making is just suspect, because I remember when she did that. So for her to kind of connect with a guy, she knew that he was a registered sex offender. Like, I mean, who does that? Like, I mean, you Nicki Minaj, I'm pretty sure you could pretty much have any cat you want, and you make a conscious decision to bring a sex offender into your life, and now you're dealing with this madness. I mean, it just makes you think, man. Like I said, I don't have an opinion either way. I mean, far be it for me to say who someone chooses to be with, but the decision making here is just highly questionable. How and why could you align yourself with someone like that? There's too many people in the world that's not that. So I don't get it. But I mean, that's what they're dealing with. That's in the news right now. So my prayers and thoughts out to the young lady who's being affected, by this like that. And I pray that she gets whatever she deserves, or whatever. So it's just a sad story, man. And I don't get it. How you get to a certain level and just think that and that's just it. I think that some people And when they get to a certain level of success in life, they think that the rules don't apply to them. Like somehow they're different, or they're better than everyone, or just they just think they're above the law, or they're above everyone. Some people do have that mentality. To where it's just like, it doesn't matter what they do. People are going to accept it, and it's going to be okay because they're who they are and they have all this money. And but I just think that's a false sense of security, and that's a messed up way of thinking. But that's just me. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up, man. Like I said, this is Real Talk Tuesdays, episode 4. I hope you all enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm trying to just keep new life flowing into the channel. I got a lot going on with the channel. So on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and end. It's Dr. Ephraim signing off, saying Hayya by Hashem, Yeshua HaMashiach, Baruch Atu Adonai, Shalom elect.